Hi, this is Pat with RacketStringingTips.com. Thanks for tuning in today. We're excited. This is the launch of our racket stringing course, so this is going to be the first part of that. And so I want to kind of get into it right away. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our racket and we're going to start analyzing and looking at that, because we want to take a look at that completely before we put it on the machine to really get this, so we can get the string. So first things first, you probably saw this in one of my earlier tips. What I like to do is I like to keep the condition of the grip the same as when it came in, especially when you're stringing this for somebody else. This particular grip is pretty grungy looking, but keeps any other dirt from getting on there, or any stains of whatever you're messing around with. There you go, simple, just a piece of plastic or a band around it, and you're good to go. So really, this is the part where I like to really start looking at the racket, analyzing it before I cut the strings out. So if the strings are intact, this works a little better. If not, you can still start looking at it. Really, because at this point, you can kind of look at the grommets with the strings in there, and you can kind of see if there's any possibility of any damaged grommets, or if the string possibly might cut into the frame, or the grommets cutting the string, so that way you can alleviate that next time around. So you can make a mark, you can write it down, and so forth. The next thing I like to do is I like to look at the strings itself and look at the pattern, especially if you're not familiar with the stringing pattern. That way you can see where the skipped holes are, and sometimes on some rackets when you have a shared hole, you can mark that down. So I'd get a piece of paper and I'd write down the way that you count strings. Basically, you count them from the center out, so you're going to go, okay, so in this particular racket, I'm going to count from the center. The way that you can tell from the center of the racket, usually there's a little dot or a little mark right in the center. Otherwise, you kind of have to kind of gauge it and kind of see, because you're going to have the same amount of strings on both sides, obviously. So, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to just count down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, first skipped hole is 7. Okay, so you're going to mark that down. And then the next skipped one is 9 in this case. So you're going to have 7, 9 skipped. And you're going to just mark that down on the head, and then on the throat you're going to do the same thing. So you're just going to count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it's the main skip 7 throat, and they also skip 9. So that way you can start to see, start to learn the pattern of the racket. Once you learn the patterns, it gets a lot easier for you. But at the beginning, I would just note all that information down. And then you can also start, another thing I would do at this point is I would look at the strings and kind of see, okay, well, where are they worn? And I'd really look to see, are they worn where the sweet spot is, or are they kind of worn all over? Because if they're worn all over, then that's something that you might look at. Well, okay, so we want to maybe add some lead tape or whatever to move the sweet spot around, things of that nature. So in this case, I would look at that as well. Then I'd look for any cracks or any fractures around the frame. Sometimes around here, depending on if it's been thrown at all, or if it's been scraped on the ground a lot, you can look at the head guard, see if there's any damage to it, because if that's really bad, then you might either want to replace it or put some protective tape over it. So you can kind of just really look at it, and then look at where, if there's a lot of dirt on it, especially if you can play it on clay or some surface that might cause a lot more dirt, or if you've been hitting pine cones with it or whatever. But anyways, so yeah, you're just going to really take a look at that, kind of look at where the tie-offs are, just for your own reference point, in case you don't know normally where to tie off with the particular frame that you're stringing, and then that way you have that information as well. And again, this racket right here has this right here, and what you're going to do is you're going to take the vibration dampener and you're going to put it somewhere where you're not going to lose it. So I would put it somewhere specific, or what you can do is you can just put it under here, under this rubber band, so that way you're not going to lose it. Because I've done that many times. I've strung a racket later on for a customer, and the customer leaves, and like, oh, I still have the dampener. So anyways, so that's, just make sure you keep that all together in one place. So that's pretty much it for today. So I just wanted to kind of go over the frame. What I'm doing at this point is I'm really looking at everything. I'm looking at the strings, I'm looking at the grommets, I'm looking at the frame, I'm looking where there's potential for a problem, and then that way I can alleviate it before I cut out the strings. And that's actually going to be our next video. We're going to be cutting out strings, so I'll go over different techniques about that. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe and check out racketstringingtips.com. Thanks. See you next time.